Hey guys, it's Kimberly Scales again here today with another life talk on Explore Your Calling. And I'm super excited today to have Emma Donaldson with us. Before we got on the video, we were trying to figure out how long I have known Emma, but I've known her for about 16 years. Kind of off and on, we've stayed connected throughout the years, but recently we reconnected. I was like, hey, I definitely want to have her on one of these video series because I know a lot of people are very interested in this type of career path. So Emma, I won't delay the introductions any longer. Tell us a little bit about you, what you've been up to, and then kind of what you're doing now.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to do this with you. So my name is Emma Donaldson. I am a mental health therapist. That's what I do for a living, and I love it. I'm married to my best friend. We don't have kids yet. We live in a townhouse in the city, and we've got 2 cats, much to his dismay. Learning how to love them. So it's a little bit about us.
Yeah, I'm not a cat fan, so I understand how he feels. So obviously, y'all can probably see one of the reasons why Emma and I connected, because she's in the mental health space and being a life coach, that's very similar. So I love meeting people and staying connected to people who your heart and your passion is the same. But she is in a completely different space than me. So kind of interesting, like when I do have my master's in counseling, but there were many things that I realized that I wasn't good at doing, which are basically the things that you are doing. So tell them a little bit about what you do now as a mental health, and then maybe what you did to get you there.
Sure. So what I do now is I work in a group practice setting, which really looks more like private practice in the sense of the clients that I work with. I've either gotten from networking with churches or other community-based organizations or referrals from previous clients or other colleagues, things of that nature. Group practice in the sense of it's a group of therapists that work together and we have a director. So that's really fun because we get to refer to one another and collaborate on cases so we can help people better. I work with couples and individuals primarily. And I specialize in trauma. So a lot of, not all, but a lot of my clients have experienced some sort of trauma in their life. Sometimes it's a PTSD diagnosis or a one incident trauma. And sometimes it's a series of traumas where they grew up in a traumatic environment that kind of led to traumas in adulthood. So that's primarily who I work with now. And like I said, what I specialize in. How I got there was a little interesting. So do you want me to go through just like education stuff?
Yeah, I would really love for you to, because one of the things that we're really, I think students are very interested in is like, how to know you have an interest in something. Did you come into college thinking this is what you were going to be? I think that path to where you are is very, very important for students to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. I knew I wanted to help people, and I had learned a little bit about physical therapy just by going in high school. I did cross country and track and developed some injuries from doing that. And so I liked my physical therapist. She was sweet and fun to talk to, and kind of felt like an adjustment when I would go see her. So I enjoyed it and I thought it would be good. I got to college. So I went to the University of Georgia for undergrad. Quickly realized that there was way too many science and math classes involved to do physical therapy. So I think my first major was health promotion. I think that's what it was called. And so realized like, okay, I do not want to be a physical therapist or / not willing to do all the science that it takes to go down that road. So I just started looking online. At the time, UGA had like an online platform where you could just search through different majors. And so I was searching through with my younger sister at the kitchen table, and we came across this title for one of these classes called Child, Family, and Development, something like that. And I thought, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. And so clicked and learned a little bit more, and getting to understand more about like human development, family systems, why we are the way we are. It wasn't exactly psychology. It was more relational than psychology. And so I thought, that sounds really cool. I want to do that. So switched my majors and started down that road. Later, the name of the degree changed. So it's now Human Development and Family Science. And while I was in that program at Georgia, one of my professors had her doctorate in marriage and family therapy. And I thought, well, that's cool. So she explained marriage and family therapy like this. She said, if you have a car and you're constantly taking out one piece of the car and getting that piece fixed only to put it back in the vehicle and have it get broken again, you know, you're spinning your wheels. Why not take a look at the car in its entirety to understand why it keeps getting broken so that you can progress and hopefully not have to take your car back. So while that metaphor is super simple, it makes sense in the context of our relationships and individuals. She said that early in her career, she was working with individuals, specifically kids, who she would help in therapy. She'd send them back home, and then they'd come back 6 weeks later to her, and it was like they never worked together. And so she said that having that access to the family relationships and getting to see people in the context of their families is where true change can take place. So when I heard about that, I was like, yes, I want to do that. I do not want to get my doctorate though. So is there a way to do something, you know, in the middle? And so she told me that there was a way to get your master's in marriage and family therapy. And so that led me to Richmont University, which is where I got my master's degree in marriage and family. And what I liked about Richmont is that it's a Christian program. So they offered a way to integrate faith and integrate spirituality into the actual training. So it wasn't watering down the education or oversimplifying it, right? It was like an addition to. So that was another reason why I chose to go to a Christian school.
So you are licensed, correct? To do what you do, you have to actually have a license. Is that correct?
Yes, so I have what's called an associate license. After your degree is conferred, meaning you're good, you graduated, and they give you your piece of paper, you can then get a license with the state of Georgia, and it's an associate license, so you have to be under supervision for a certain amount of time, a certain amount of hours before you can then become fully licensed. So I'm a couple supervision hours short of being fully licensed, and Lord willing, I can get all the paperwork in. We'll be fully licensed this year.
Okay, so I'll put myself on mute because I have a little background noise, and since we're recording this, just if anybody hears anything, that's what's going on. But so very cool is, so I was very similar kind of with you. I ended up doing, back when I graduated years ago, they didn't have all those fancy like human growth development, you know, like human development. It was just straight up psychology. And so I was able to do a psychology, get a master's in counseling, but a lot of people who have just like that basic psychology degree, or maybe even that basic undergrad, I always feel like if you're going to step something into in that counseling field and everything, you're going to have an additional education beyond the graduate. So I just kind of want to put that out there, that a basic psychology degree doesn't get you to where you are in that realm. I recently went back to my alma mater and met with at Berry College what they call peer educators, and they were basically like peer educators, peer counselors on campus. And when I asked them all what they were about to do after graduation, every single one of them was having to go to get a master's in social work, or you know, different masters. I think a couple of people actually said they were looking at the physical therapy, occupational therapy route as well. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there to those who are considering this field. You have to pretty much go, like you said, you don't have to get your doctorate, but you pretty much always have to do like a secondary degree after undergraduate.
That's right. You've got to have a master's degree, and then after your master's degree, you've got to meet with a fully licensed clinician who has the credentials to be a supervisor or clinical supervisor, who basically approves your work and is able to continue teaching you while you are in the field. It's different.
I'm sorry, how long did that take you? Like, how long do you have to get supervised?
Yep. So it depends on the licensure. I have an associate license in professional counseling, but my master's is in marriage and family therapy. So I can eventually get a license in marriage and family therapy as well. That one, the shortest amount of time that you can complete supervision for an MFT is 2 years. For the licensed professional counselor, the shortest amount of time that you can complete your hours is 3 years. So for me, it'll have been 3 years post graduating from grad school.
Wow, that's a long time. Are you able to make an income and do all that while you're being supervised, or is it something that, I mean, I'm assuming that once you get licensure, your income level would go up, but in that interim, what does that look like?
Yeah, it can. So I still, I have a job and I'm still able to produce income as an associate licensed person.
Okay.
I'm still, my rates are lower than someone who's fully licensed for sure. And so some people decide to make a big jump and raise their rates once they get fully licensed. Some people like to do it incrementally, so they'll raise their rates a little bit every year as their associate licensed, and then when they get fully licensed, they'll just raise it again. That's kind of been the trajectory that I've been on. That's just what has made the most sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, so the reason why I asked that is because a lot of students will say, how much money do you make in this field? How much do you do this? And so, I don't know when doctors are working on their medical stuff if they make money, so I think it's just important for students to know you're not going to be not having income come in while you're in this process.
Yeah. And I'll, to that point, I'll say it really depends on what kind of setting you work in after you graduate. If you go work for a hospital or if you work for a nonprofit, you may be paid a salary, which will be nice because you'll have the steady income, but it's going to be a low salary. It's not going to be what you may feel like you deserve with a master's degree. Like, that's just kind of how the field is. If you're in a private practice setting, you will make more. However, that depends on how many clients you have, right? So think about like a commission sense. There's no base salary. You're paid per session that you have. And so while you might have the opportunity to make more, you're going to make far less while you're building your practice. It takes time. A lot of people have a second job while they're building.
Okay, that's very good to know. I think students really need to know that going into that. Now, can you speak, I know this isn't your specialty and this is kind of off a little from the questions that I sent. Can you speak of the different areas of like counseling? I know there's like sports psychology, organizational. Can you speak just to a little bit of your knowledge of other different paths you can take within this field?
Within the human development, like the undergrad field or the master's program?
Maybe a little bit of both, if you have a little bit of information on both of those.
Sure. So speaking from undergrad, people and I'll just share what some of my friends who graduated with that same undergrad degree did. One person went on to grow her own business. So she teaches people how to communicate effectively and how to sell within whatever business they have. And she uses a lot of communications skills and understanding relationships, because that's a big part of sales, right? From our undergrad. And then of course she's gone on to take future educational opportunities as well. Some people go on to more of a child life specialist track. Mm-hmm. There is additional, if I recall correctly, there is additional training to be a child life specialist post undergrad. I think our senior year, you had to go to a separate course for that. But they work in hospital settings and work with kids and being a liaison and things like that. Other people went to the nonprofit space. So not necessarily social work, but working in a social work setting. Occupational therapy, things like that. I don't remember anyone doing that with our undergrad degree. It was more like nonprofit work. Mm-hmm.
I had a thought. I think when I was thinking, like, back, like I said, back in the day, it was just a psychology degree. We didn't have some of these specialized things. I've heard that child specialist is a very kind of growing profession right now. So I'm glad that you brought that up for sure. And then there's always school. I know a student that I worked with, she's now a school counselor up in Forsyth County somewhere. So that's a whole another area as well. Okay, so anything else about this field? Any little special information that you'd like to share that you're just like, oh yeah, think about this, or oh yeah, think about that?
Yeah, I think for anyone who is in high school or early college and is thinking about being a therapist or a counselor, I would suggest that you go to counseling or therapy for yourself, first. I think it's for two reasons. One, it's a good way to learn about, the process and to understand what it's like to be a client. And second, part of being a good therapist is taking care of yourself and dealing with your own junk and caring for yourself well so that you can care for others well. And so part of that is going to therapy. I go to therapy now, and it's great and I love it. And it also helps destigmatize it for other people. And so I think that that's probably the best advice I could give someone who's thinking about becoming a therapist would be to try it out as a client first.
Okay, so while we have access to you and just knowing the state of our world and so much is going on, do you have a little mental health tip that you can share with us today?
Sure. I think that 2020 has been a year that no one thought it would be. So where there is a lack of meeting expectations, there can be feelings of loss. And where there's loss, there's grief, and trauma soon follows if it did not precede it. So I think just recognizing that everybody is going through a really hard time right now, differently for different reasons. And then second, to have some boundaries, have boundaries around your time, around what you put into your mind, around what you allow people to say to you. Social media, have boundaries with that. It is okay to unplug. It is okay to set aside time where you're not on or interacting with people or having people be available to you.
Well, I've taken that advice. I was a hardcore Today Show fan and a hardcore listener of the 6 o'clock news. And I have completely, I'll take that back, 99.9% gotten rid of doing that and filled my time with, in the morning, I'm filling it with Jesus. So I am very proud of cutting out that noise. It's been very good. So I highly recommend the advice that Emma just gave us. So Emma, thank you so much for sharing today. I love that you and I have kind of reconnected recently. And I know the value of what you do and the importance of that. So thank you for you. I do also just want to just really, if you're in one of those professions where it's always important to take care of ourselves. But if you're in or choose a career where you are constantly giving your emotions and things to other people, it is very, very important for you to get filled back up and take care of yourself. Especially with Emma being, I don't know if she would say she's a newlywed anymore, but back when she was, it was important for her to stay filled so she could give her husband what he needed for their marriage and be the best that she could be for their marriage. So anyway, so good advice. And just as you step into some profession of this sort and this career path, that's very important to keep that in mind. So thank you, Emma, so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, guys, thanks so much. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you on our next video.